Of the 1981 World Championship for Formula One Grand Prix cars, and it's at Dijon in Burgundy. The course 2.4 miles, and it's very, very fast indeed. And as they go round on the warm-up lap around this tricky and demanding circuit, the news is that in pole position after 2 days practice, it's René Arnoux, the Frenchman who finished in third position in 1979 when the race was last held at this circuit. But the sensation as we look down on the cars and look at the red and white Marlboro, there it is, of John Watson. He's second fastest in a car that's been getting faster and faster meeting by meeting. And in third position on the grid, another Frenchman, it's Alain Prost. And there is the grid. Prost third fastest, Piquet fourth, De Cesaris fifth, Lafitte sixth, and Carlos Reutemann in seventh fastest position, followed by Elio De Angelis, the young Italian, in the Lotus 87. 24 starters as ever, the last one of which was to have been Chico Serra, but in the warm-up period earlier today, Chico Serra crashed his car. He's out of the race, he's perfectly all right himself, but the result is that there are only 23 of the 24 scheduled starters. The fastest lap at Dijon, put up by René Arnoux in 1979, 1 minute 9.2 seconds, and that's a speed of 122.9 miles an hour. And that's an indication of how quick this Dijon circuit is in comparison with the last Grand Prix, which was held at Spain, at Madrid on the Jarama circuit. And up they come to the grid. There's the world champion situation. Carlos Reutemann leading, 37 points ahead of his Williams teammate Alan Jones, with Piquet, the Brabham driver, third in the championship ahead of the Ferrari driver Gilles Villeneuve, who's won the last two Grand Prix to be held at Monaco and at Spain. On the left of your picture, the two fast cars, the Renault Turbos, sandwiched between them. On the right of the picture, the red and white Marlboro car of number 7 John Watson. And this is certainly a turbo circuit. It suits the French cars perfectly because it's tremendously fast. 80 laps, 190 miles, as near as makes no difference. The weather conditions good. It's a bit overcast overhead as the engine revs rise, and away they go. And coming through in the middle of your picture, Alain Prost, the Frenchman, and René Arnoux. But it is number 5, Nelson Piquet, who is leading, with John Watson taking second position and trying to take Piquet as they go into the first corner. Piquet and Watson already breaking away. De Cesaris in the Marlboro in third position. And they come round the right-hander at La Bretelle up towards the Parabolique. Now they're into an uphill section, and on lap 1 out of 80, it's Nelson Piquet leading John Watson, then the young Italian De Cesaris. So a Brazilian in the lead in the Marlboro, an Irishman in second place, Piquet in the Brabham, not the Marlboro, John Watson second in the Marlboro, as the rest of the 23 runners go streaming through, and last at the moment, it's Eddie Cheever in the Tyrrell. De Cesaris. There is Alain Prost in fourth position in the Renault. Over the brow, into the far straight, out of the Courbe de Poix, into the very quick straight, and it's 160 miles an hour down here, with Piquet leading Watson. And up into third position has come Alain Prost, who has passed De Cesaris. There goes Prost, there is De Cesaris. Now into the Sablière, the right and left-handers. La Bretelle again, up to the Parabolique. This is lap 2, and look again at the start. Watch Nelson Piquet. Into the first right-hander at Villeroy. Watch John Watson, number 7, he's gone through, and now we're back live watching the race leader, Nelson Piquet, who desperately needs World Championship points, because for the last 3 races, Nelson Piquet has been out of the running. He went off, and that's Alan Jones into the pits. Now we're well into the race, and Alan Jones in the Williams car. Don't be worried about that fluid that was pouring out underneath it. I'll explain it as Jones comes out of the pits. He's changed tyres, and at the same time they pressurised his cooling system, and that water was coming out of a release valve at the bottom of the car. It didn't mean that there was anything wrong with Jones's Williams car. So after 21 laps, it's Piquet leading Prost with Watson third, Reutemann in the Williams fourth, René Arnoux in the Renault in fifth position, and Gilles Villeneuve in the turbocharged Ferrari in sixth position. And Piquet, after 21 laps, is leading Alain Prost by just about 10.5 seconds, and there is the Renault. Piquet up into the parabolique, and Nelson Piquet, the 28-year-old Brazilian, as we look at Alan Jones fighting his way up through the field. He's about to be lapped by Piquet because Jones has been in and out of the pits 3 times. This is certainly not a good race for Alan Jones, the man who's in second position in the World Championship. There he is. And it looks to me as though Jones is coming into the pits again because he went right offline. Now he should come over the crest of the hill if he is going into the pits. You should see the Williams. There he is. Alan Jones on the left of your picture just jinks to the right and into the pits as Mark Seurer goes through. Derek Daly, number 17. Eddie Cheever, number 3. And there is Alain Prost, the Frenchman, being chased by John Watson in third position. Piquet is well ahead, and Jones into the pits yet again. And all the time when they've been coming into the pits, there is the offside front end. See the hose going into the side pod. That's water going under pressure into the cooling system to top it up, and it's coming out underneath the car as Piquet laps Riccardo Patrese. Piquet is controlling this race from the front as Patrick Tambay goes through. There is the race leader ahead of Riccardo Patrese. And the order now, as we look at Alan Jones coming out of the pits again, Nelson Piquet is leading Alain Prost in the Renault. In third position, it's John Watson. There is Jones coming out of the pits, chasing Mario Andretti. There's Bruno Giacomelli, Patrick Tambay, and there's the race leader, number 5, Nelson Piquet, who has lapped Patrese in the Arrows, who has lapped Mark Seurer, who has lapped Derek Daly, and there on the left of your picture, the man who is in second place, Alain Prost in the Renault. And this is a superb drive by number 15, the 26-year-old Frenchman, although he is now some 7 seconds behind Nelson Piquet. There's the race leader, Piquet the Brazilian, needing the points. 3 Grand Prix he has failed in succession because he went off the circuit in Belgium, he went off at Monaco, he went off in Spain. And as a result of all that, he's only in third position in the World Championship with 22 points. Coming up to lap Patrick Tambay. Patrick Tambay driving for the first time. That's the blue car in the middle, and there's Piquet passing, or is he? No, he's going to try and go through between, on the right Tambay, on the left Giacomelli. Tambay cuts across Giacomelli, and Piquet is still behind both of them, but he can take his time over passing because he is almost a full lap ahead of the Alfa Romeo. Look at it again. Now watch some real Grand Prix driving. Alan Jones, number 1. Piquet cuts across from behind Tambay, tries to go through between Tambay and Giacomelli. Tambay cuts across Giacomelli, and we're back live now looking at the Williams of Alan Jones, number 1, the reigning world champion, and still Tambay goes through, driving in the Talbot Matra, his first drive, and Piquet's got ahead of Tambay, but he has not got ahead of Giacomelli. There's Piquet, he's not past Tambay. Coming up to the Frenchman now, completing another lap out of the very fast Courbe de Poix into the straight from 4th to 5th gear. And there is Alan Jones, who's now some 4 laps behind, being chased by Mario Andretti. Now there is Tombay, Piquet, Giacomelli, Riccardo Patrese, Marc Surer in his first drive in the Theodore. There's the second place man in the yellow Renault, and that's Alain Prost, and number 7 in third position, John Watson. And it's interesting that neither of the Williams cars are in the first 3. Carlos Reutemann is in 4th place, the man who's leading the World Championship. But 4th place isn't very satisfactory as far as Reutemann is concerned, because he won in Brazil, he was 2nd in the Argentine, he's leading the World Championship. And still, Patrick Tambay in a superb drive in his first race in the Talbot Matra, the man who has driven in the private Theodore team, but Jean-Pierre Jabouille has retired from racing due to his injuries in the Canadian Grand Prix last year. His place has been taken by fellow Frenchman Patrick Tambay, and Tambay is keeping ahead of the man who is in 3rd position in the World Championship, and not for very much longer, because Piquet comes out of Tambay's slipstream, take a beautiful passing manoeuvre, has completed another lap. And as I said earlier on, Nelson Piquet is very much controlling this race from the front. He's getting pit signals all the way round, and as a matter of interest, Goodyear, the American tyre concern, have come back into racing after having been out of it since the fracas as a result of the battle between FISA, the governing body of world motorsport, and the Formula One Constructors Association. 26 laps, that is, but we are now on a later lap than that, of course, and you see that Piquet is just about 8 seconds ahead of Prost, who is about 4 seconds ahead of Watson, who's about 8 seconds ahead of Reutemann, who is only 2 seconds ahead of Arnoux, and in 6th position it's Gilles Villeneuve. And I was saying that Nelson Piquet is on Goodyear tyres. There's only 2 teams on Goodyear's, and that's the Brabham and the Williams teams. So it's a wonderful re-entry for Goodyear in Grand Prix racing. In their first race, they're leading with Nelson Piquet. Now, where's the second place man? There he is. It's Alain Prost, going through on the inside of Riccardo Patrese in the Arrows. And in third position, it's still John Watson in the Marlboro MP4. And John is very, very happy indeed as we look at this replay of Alain Prost, the Frenchman. Watch the way the front aerofoil is wobbling over the bumps as he goes through and takes Patrese. Patrese, incidentally, very unhappy about his tyres in practice, and it looks as though they're not lasting too well in terms of performance in the race as Tambay goes through again. And we wait now for, yes, there he goes. It's Alain Prost chasing Bruno Giacomelli to lap him in the Alfa Romeo, and Prost is holding that second position as Piquet goes up to the parabolique again. It's a second gear corner on the apex, 95 miles an hour on this tremendously demanding corner. Then he plunges downhill, takes third gear at the bottom there as Tambay goes through, and Prost in second position, and that's John Watson behind him in third position. John Watson is closing up on Alain Prost. Now, the Ulsterman, the Irish driver, John Watson, as we look at Nelson Piquet in the lead, John Watson is starting a charge. Watch for number 7, Watson in the red and white Marlboro. And watch too as Nelson Piquet comes down the straight towards us, followed by Giacomelli in the Alfa Romeo that he's lapped, followed by Tambay. Then there is Alain Prost, and behind Alain Prost is Mario Andretti. Then the orange car is Patrese, and number 7 in third place is John Watson, who has lapped Marc Surer. And there is Carlos Reutemann, number 2 in fourth position. Fifth position is René Arnoux in the turbocharged Renault. So both the turbocharged Renaults, as we look at the race leader Nelson Piquet, are in the first 5 places. And that's the first time they've done that this season. The Renaults are coming good on their home circuit at Dijon in France. Alain Prost, second place. Piquet completing another lap down the straight. He's getting his pit signals all the time. They're telling him that the gap between himself and the second place man, Alain Prost, there is Prost. And Prost looks a lot closer to Piquet on your television set than he is in fact, because the television lens has a foreshortening effect and the gap is some 7 seconds still. Piquet very much in command. He's driving an absolutely superb race, 28 years old. Nelson Sotomayor is his real name. And there is Patrick Tambay in his first race in the Talbot Matra. And he looks as though he may be out of his first race in the Talbot Matra, looking quite impassive inside that helmet of his, explaining what the problem is. And it seems to be a tyre problem. They've changed them. As we look at De Cesaris, chased by De Angelis. There is Pironi in the Ferrari. Alan Jones trying to make up lost time. Coming towards us now, Nigel Mansell, number 12 in the Lotus. And the race leader, Nelson Piquet, completing yet another lap. And they are certainly having a leisurely pit stop in the Talbot Matra Patrick Tambay pit. All the tyres and wheels off the car as John Watson goes through. That was the position at the end of 31 laps. And the gap you see is still some 8 seconds, just under 8 seconds, between Piquet the leader, Prost in second place, Reutemann in fourth position, and then Arnoux and Villeneuve. And there is the front brake of Patrick Tambay's car, or there was the front brake of Patrick Tambay's car being bled. That's the trouble. As we look at the battle for second position in this French Grand Prix at Dijon, in good weather conditions. The circuit is in good fettle. It's very hot here, very humid and very overcast. In the 2 days of practice, we've had rain on both days, and everybody is desperately hoping that the rain clouds, which have been over the circuit earlier today, keep away. There's Piquet going through. Now, there is the battle for second position. Prost, number 15, as Tambay gets away from the pits. There is John Watson in third place. Out of the pits comes Tambay. Through in second place goes Alain Prost. And the Renaults, to the delight of this enormous French crowd. I was at the circuit this morning at 7 o'clock and it took me half an hour to get in then, because there were thousands and thousands of Frenchmen and women already around the circuit, and they've been pouring in ever since, because with Renault's first and third fastest in practice, they smelt a Renault win, as there was in 1979 when Jean-Pierre Jabouille won, when René Arnoux was in third position. But that win doesn't seem to be happening, because Nelson Piquet, with the horns of encouragement blowing in the background, Nelson Piquet is still very much in control as Pironi goes through. And Piquet now is closing up on Nigel Mansell, who is in 11th position. Alain Prost second still. John Watson now. Is Watson going to take the Alfa Romeo? Yes, indeed he is. Out of the slipstream of 1978 world champion Mario Andretti, number 22, in the V12 Alfa Romeo goes John Watson in the Marlboro MP4. Watson full of confidence. But he's dropped back from Alain Prost. Prost, number 15, the man from Saint-Chamond, still in second place as Daly and Cheever go through. Over the crest and the skyline, there goes Alan Jones. And there's no change because although the race seems static, we're getting people closing up, dropping back, lapping all the time. Alain Prost is driving his way through the field. He's in second place still, chasing Piquet. There is Piquet, and he's now up to, and this is sweet revenge for the Brazilian, he's now up to Didier Pironi, the Frenchman in the turbocharged 1.5 litre Ferrari, and it looks to me as though he's going to lap him. As towards us come Alboreto. There is Villeneuve in the Ferrari, number 27. Now he's ahead of Alboreto. And it was Villeneuve, incidentally, that Piquet was closing up on. And Piquet has taken all the rest of the cars, the 4 cars that you can see behind him. And the gap there between Piquet and Prost has been closed by, what, some 0.6 of a second out of nearly 8 seconds. So it's not significant. Piquet is not losing any time as he goes through the traffic. Hector Ribach amongst that batch with Andrea De Cesaris, who is in 9th position. Villeneuve, Ribach, Alan Jones amongst that lot. There is Piquet, ahead of Pironi, ahead of Mansell. And Nelson Piquet obviously feeling good. He's got the rhythm of the race. He's getting through the back markers. He's taking his pit signals as towards us come Villeneuve, Ribach. Lafitte being taken by Jones, number 1. 11 is De Angelis. 8 is De Cesaris. There is the race leader, Nelson Piquet. So he has passed some 4 cars. And by chance, there's about 8 or 9 cars on the circuit together. And the speeds, of course, are below what they would have been last year had the race been held here at Dijon. But last year the race was at the Paul Ricard circuit near Marseille, as a result of which the speeds are about on a par with the last time the race was held at Dijon. Prost closing up a bit, just about, he's taken a second out of Piquet's lead, as near as makes no difference. But I'm sure Piquet won't be worrying, because as I've said earlier on, he will know what the positions are from the signals as De Cesaris goes through. And now Piquet has got a problem, and he's got to get through ahead of Villeneuve, Ribach as they come down towards us. There is Lafitte, Jones, De Angelis and De Cesaris. Now, if any of this lot hold Nelson Piquet up as Jones, De Angelis, number 11 in the Lotus 87, De Cesaris in the Marlborough, if any of them hold Nelson Piquet up, he could have a problem, because now Alain Prost in the Renault, having got ahead of the people that Piquet has passed, has got an opportunity to close up on Nelson Piquet if the Brazilian in the Brabham with the Ford V8 engine and some 500 horsepower under his foot is delayed at all. Let's see, Villeneuve. And there's the blue flag. The blue flag is being waved to indicate to all those drivers that there is someone behind them who wants to pass, and that's Nelson Piquet. And if they're gentlemen, they will move over and let him through. Let's see whether they do. Piquet chasing number 8, De Cesaris in the Marlborough. De Cesaris, who is now pretty well known either for going tremendously fast or flying off the circuit, seems to have stayed on thus far. He's well up and out of it. It's Piquet. There's Piquet past De Cesaris. So on lap 41, Piquet, Prost, Watson, Arnoux, Reutemann, Villeneuve. The gap between Prost and Piquet just over 5 seconds, but Piquet's going through the field, and there is the second place man, Alain Prost, closing up on the people that Piquet has already passed. And John Watson's getting ever closer. That's John Watson that we're looking at. He has lapped De Angelis, the black car. The man in the white helmet behind him has been lapped. There, the yellow car going up the hill is Prost, who's in second place. There, the red and white car is the Marlborough MP4 of John Watson. And Watson has most definitely closed up. He's got through the traffic quicker than Prost. There's Prost, there's Watson in third position. Behind Watson in 4th place, René Arnoux. In 5th, down to 5th place has gone Reutemann. In 6th position, Gilles Villeneuve. In 7th place, Hector Ribac. 8th is Jacques Lafitte. 9th is De Angelis. And De Cesaris, who has been lapped now, of course, is in 10th position. And they complete another lap. Prost, Watson goes through. There's De Angelis, who's been lapped. Coming towards us in the Talbot Matra, Lafitte, De Cesaris about to be lapped. Having been lapped by Piquet, is going to be lapped shortly by Prost. And there's Watson in 3rd position. The race is closing up. The positions are still the same, but the battle for 2nd position is well and truly on. Between Alain Prost in the Renault, John Watson in the Marlboro. Arnoux still in 4th position, so it's the Renaults in 2nd and 4th position. And that's not good enough for the French crowd. Not at all happy seeing the Brazilian Nelson Piquet in the lead as we look at Didier Pironi in the Ferrari. And now Elio De Angelis. There's Pironi. And Prost. Prost closing out, still hasn't taken De Cesaris. And De Cesaris is shortly going to be lapped not only by Alain Prost, who's in 2nd position. There's Piquet going through. He's lapped Jones. Now look at De Cesaris, number 8. And out of his slipstream comes Prost into the braking, but De Cesaris slams the door in his face, pushes him back, and that gives John Watson an opportunity to close up even more. De Cesaris, 10th position, lapped by the leader. There's De Angelis. Up to the parabolique, down into 2nd gear. Very demanding. It's very easy for the car to slip to the left and off the circuit there. And now look at the gap between Watson as we look at De Angelis in the Lotus, who's been lapped now. Look at the gap. Next time, there it is, the gap. There's Prost in 2nd position in the yellow car, in the Renault, the turbocharged Renault. Prost, and there's Watson. Now, Watson can scent the opportunity to get up into 2nd position here, but his car, which handles, obviously, as Prost comes through and passes De Cesaris. Now, can he get past Lafitte? And can Watson get past De Cesaris? This is Prost's opportunity to break away from John Watson. And I'm looking up as I watch the race. I'm looking up and into the sky, and it's looking a bit ominous because there's a black cloud. In fact, it's very, very overcast. All around me, the skies are fairly blue and the sun is shining, but there is an ominous black cloud hanging over the circuit. And I'm just hoping, with everybody else here, that that black cloud either moves away or keeps its contents to itself, because in practice we had a lot of trouble with rain on the circuit, and if it happens here today, it will be a real problem, because all the drivers, of course, and there's De Cesaris, who still has not let John Watson through. He must know that it's Watson in his mirrors, and surely he'll let him through now. He's doing so. He's letting Watson through. Watch. Over the crest. And John Watson now is past his teammate Andrea De Cesaris as Alain Prost in 2nd position takes Jacques Lafitte and laps him. Lafitte in the Talbot Matra. And I was saying, it looks ominously to me as though there's a danger of rain. Let's hope it stays away. Prost, all the time in front, Nelson Piquet. And the positions now, as we're well past lap 50 in this 80-lap race, it's Nelson Piquet, still a secure 7 seconds ahead of Alain Prost. There's John Watson, who's passed Lafitte. Watson in 3rd position. You just saw Piquet go through. 17 is Daly in the March. It's going much better now. Prost, Watson. There's Hector Ribac. And Ribac is in 6th position, but has been lapped. And the order is Piquet first, Prost second, Watson third, and we're looking at him now. Reutemann fourth, Arnoux is in fifth position. Hector Rebaque is sixth and has been lapped. Jacques Lafitte is in seventh place. De Cesaris is eighth. De Angelis in the Lotus is in ninth position. Then it's Didier Pironi in the Ferrari. Nigel Mansell in 11th place in the Lotus 87. And in 12th place, Mario Andretti. Prost and Watson now virtually together. That was the position on lap 56. Piquet still just about 6.5, 7 seconds ahead of Prost. But Prost only 1.2 seconds and less than that now as they come through the right-hander. It's certainly less than 1.2 seconds, and look at that umbrella around the course. I can tell you, I'm sitting out in the open and I can feel drizzle on my arms, and I hope that drizzle doesn't turn into rain, because as we get into the mid-50s on laps in this 80-lap race, there's still a long way to go. And funnily enough, at this Dijon circuit, you can get rain on one part of it and it can be dry on another. And if that happens, it will be extremely tricky. Tricky enough for Alain Prost, because he's not only got to try and catch Nelson Piquet as he goes up the parabolique, some 6 seconds now behind the race leader, but he's got to try and keep John Watson behind him. And now, of course, he can see Watson in his mirrors. He's coming up to Patrese. There's Watson. John Watson, the man who at the end of last season was being denigrated by so many people incorrectly, because he hadn't done at all well. He'd got an unsuitable motor car. Now he's got something that really suits his talents, and he's showing it. Second fastest in practice, third in the race, and starting to challenge for second position, Alain Prost. And look at that, spray from the tyres. It's coming down, it's starting to rain heavily as De Cesaris, who has been into the pits, comes out, and Alain Prost takes Patrese, and John Watson is blocked by Patrese. He's past Hector Rebaque, and the rain is really starting to come down now. And you can see, if you watch closely, you can see some of the spectators are starting to put hoods up, starting to put umbrellas up. And it's getting to be a real problem. And the drivers, of course, are on slick tyres, bald-treaded tyres, no tread on them at all to grip the circuit, to cut their way through the rain. And it will be like driving on ice. It's dry here. Look, that's interesting. It's dry at this part of the circuit. Now, what are they going to do? Are they going to let the race run and let the drivers do the best they can on slick tyres? It's absolutely bucketing down now. You can see on your television screens how the rain is coming down, and John Watson is ahead of Prost, and out goes the red flag. They're stopping the race. They're stopping the race. This is on the 59th lap. So there were 21 laps to go, and now the rain, as I talk to you, is coming down with a vengeance. They've stopped the race, and the news is we've had a very quick decision, and the news is that because the race has run less than 3/4 of its distance, which is 60 laps, they have made an instant decision that the race, according to the official rules, has got to be run as a two-part race. So now, an hour later, the grid is reassembling, and it's reassembling in the order that the cars finished in what will now be regarded as part one of the race. And the decision, as they go round on another warm-up lap about who wins the French Grand Prix, will be decided by adding up both parts. Now, that's the grid in effect, because that's a finishing position. That was the classification on the 59th lap, but it was at the end of the 58th lap that the actual decision to classify the race was taken. So those 6 cars will comprise the first 3 rows of the grid of the second start of the day. They have got to do 22 laps, and as you see, Prost was 6.79 seconds behind Piquet. So he has got to finish at least 7 seconds or so in front of Piquet. And I've just had a flash from the pits, and that is that both Prost and Arnoux had gearbox trouble in the first leg. It's been corrected on both cars, and I've just been told that both the Renaults are going out on qualifying Michelin tyres. They're soft tyres, they will give super grip, but the question is, will those qualifying tyres last the 22 laps? It's very much a gamble, but the Renault team see the opportunity now for Prost and Arnoux to make up the time deficit on Piquet at the end of the 58 laps. So it's going to be a really exciting, in effect, 22 lap sprint. This is not, of course, the race that they're on. The reason for this is that they're having an extra warm-up lap now as they come round. And there's Hector Ribach. That lap completed. Now the grid will reform, and I remind you that it's going to be Piquet in pole position, and I can tell you that it's a very unhappy and disconsolate Nelson Piquet, because the first leg was only 2 laps off the 3/4 distance. He had the race in his pocket. He wouldn't have been caught unless he'd had trouble and the car was going beautifully. And now he's got to do it all over again, and Piquet is not on qualifying tyres. There's the car, because Goodyear hadn't got any special qualifying tyres. So there's Watson, who's in 3rd position on the grid. Reutemann is 4th, Arnoux is 5th, and in 6th position it's Hector Ribach. 2 Brabhams, 2 Renaults, the Marlborough of John Watson and the Williams of Reutemann. 22 laps and it's go again. And this time it's a superb start from Alain Prost, and he's into the lead. It's Watson 2nd, it's Arnoux in 3rd position, it's Ribach going through in 4th place, and Piquet's had a very bad start. Piquet right down in 5th position, and look at the crowd waving. It's a French car in the lead, a French driver, a French engine and French tyres, and they love that. And John Watson hanging on as they go round towards the parabolique. They've gone round La Bretelle up to the parabolique. This is the 95, 100-mile-an-hour corner, and Watson's trying to take Prost as they come up to the braking point, and he's going through. John Watson leads, but he's run wide, and Prost goes through. Well, if John Watson keeps that up, he will either definitely win this race or go straight into the Armco. So Prost leads, Watson 2nd, Arnoux is 3rd, and let's look at it again. This is where Watson lost the lead. He runs wide over the curbing. Prost holds his line, cuts through on the inside. Lovely bit of driving. John Watson just overdid it a bit, and I suspect that's a function of the soft tyres that Prost has got. And at the end of lap 1 of the 2nd leg, Prost leads Watson. Arnoux is 3rd, Piquet is 4th, Reutemann is 5th, then it's Pironi. Mansell is in 6th position, Mario Andretti is in 7th place, and Bruno Giacomelli is 8th, and Michele Alboreto in the Tyrrell is in last place. And there is the battle for the lead. Alain Prost is leading for the first time in his Formula One Grand Prix career, a Grand Prix, and it is his own Grand Prix, the French at Dijon. Prost in only his 2nd season of Grand Prix racing, as Piquet, Pironi, Reutemann, Mansell, Andretti and Giacomelli go through. Watson 2nd. Now I say again, and there's Lafitte. Lafitte is out of the race, and Lafitte finished in 7th place in the first leg. He was conceivably in with a chance of victory, even though he'd been lapped. A very slim chance, but that's gone now. And don't forget Prost there. That's an indication of the tyres. 1 minute 9.14. That's much faster. The fastest lap we had in the first leg was 1 minute 10.2 by Nelson Piquet. And Prost is going quicker. His gearbox is working well and his tyres are working well. Watson is second. Arnoux there. Number 16 in the second Renault is third. Didier Pironi in the Scarlet Renault is in fourth place, and Nelson Piquet, the man who won the first leg, is not only down in fifth position, but he is more than that vital 7 seconds behind Alain Prost. So on aggregate, Prost is leading without a doubt to Cesaris Andretti. Alan Jones goes through. Nigel Mansell towards us in the Lotus 87, and there is the race leader, Prost, who made his reputation in karts, then in Formula Renault. There's John Watson, he's dropping back. Well, Prost has got to keep this up, but not for all that long, because I say again, this restarted French Grand Prix is in effect a sprint race now. There's the gap visually, and it's now some 4 seconds between Alain Prost, number 15 that we're looking at, and John Watson. Where is the Marlborough? He's no longer even in the same shot as the camera looks at the course. There's the answer. Well, if Watson can keep this up, he'll be doing well, because according to my mental arithmetic while I talk to you, John Watson is in second place on aggregate, but there is the leader. And Nelson Piquet still down in fifth position because he hasn't closed up at all on Pironi in the Ferrari. Pironi's making no impression on Arnoux, who is third, and there is the race leader. And you saw the course is not completely dried out. There was just a spurt of spray as Alain Prost's near side rear tyre went off the side of the course momentarily. And there's Alboreto, Bruno Giacomelli, Prost in the lead, completes another lap. Then all three cars, first, second and third, in the shot together. John Watson, number 7, second. René Arnoux is about the same distance behind Watson as Watson is behind the race leader Alain Prost. But if they keep this up, it's going to be a great day for Renault, and it's going to be a repeat of the 1979 French Grand Prix at Dijon, when Renault's finished first and third. Then it was Jabouille first and Arnoux third. Now it is that man leading the race, Alain Prost, and the same man in third position, René Arnoux. Prost has lapped Giacomelli already. And there's John Watson. And it would seem to me that John Watson has had to give Prost best, and I suspect that that is a function of tyres. I know, as I said earlier on, because we had this message from the pits, that the Michelin concern have found two sets of super sticky tyres for Prost, number 15. There he is, and in the background Arnoux, and there's Watson in second place, and that is a great tribute to John Watson's driving as Pironi in fourth place comes over the skyline, because notwithstanding the fact that I think, I must be careful what I say, but I think Watson will have slower tyres, he is nevertheless keeping ahead of Arnoux in third position. 3.22 seconds, the gap between the race leader, John Watson, and Alain Prost. But now Prost has got to catch up and get past Alboreto, catch up and get past Riccardo Patrese. And we're very much into the closing stages now of the second leg, the restarted French Grand Prix. If Prost can't punch his way past, and I think he will, he can absolutely power past those Renaults, 1.5 litres turbocharged, produce over 550 brake horsepower. And Patrese' car that he's just passed produces about 500. That's enough, goodness knows. But another 10% power makes all the difference. And now John Watson, who's in second place, has got to try and get past Alboreto and Patrese, who have got the same sort of engine, the Ford V8, and prevent René Arnoux in third position from catching him. And it looks to me, just looked to me as though Watson was taking Alboreto. No, he wasn't. Alboreto and Patrese are still ahead of him. There's the gap. And Watson goes through. He's going to take Alboreto now if Alboreto moves over and lets him, and he's done so. So Watson's past one. There's the race leader. The blue flag waves. And Watson is going, a beautiful, lovely bit of driving. Patrese politely moves over, just that half car's width, lets Watson through. And so Watson has preserved his second place past Patrese, who is in ninth position. And with just the closing stages of the race to go, it's Alain Prost that we're looking at now, leading John Watson. There he is. Then Patrese's been lapped. Alboreto's been lapped. In the background, the third place man, René Arnoux. In fourth place, it's Didier Pironi. Where is the Ferrari? Look back along the course. No, we missed him. Pironi in fourth position. Piquet is fifth. Andrea de Cesaris is in sixth place. And that means, I think, subject to official confirmation, Prost is certainly winning the French Grand Prix with hardly any distance to go. Watson is second, and there they are. Piquet is in third position overall, I'm talking about. In fourth place it must be, I think, René Arnoux. Pironi's well up, De Angelis is well up, and Nigel Mansell's come up into the running too. But I'm not too sure about the fifth, sixth and seventh positions. Prost. Now, if the gap between Prost, and we know it is over 7 seconds, we know there's no doubt at all about the fact that as we look at Hector Ribach and Eddie Cheever, Ribach in the Brabham, Cheever in the Tyrrell, if the gap between Prost in the Renault and Piquet in the Brabham is over 7 seconds, you'll be able to see how much Alain Prost is in the lead. There he is. Almost home and dry, literally, which is more than he was at the end of the first leg when the rain was beating down on him and the Renault. Up to the parabolique. Takes it very wide, down into second gear, accelerates hard, up into third at this point. Round the apex of the right-hander, sticks it into fourth gear, round the left-hander, which is where he spun in practice. Spun right in front of me in practice there. Accelerates away, fifth gear, into the Courbe de Pouin. There's tremendous G-forces here. The driver really has to fight to keep his head upright here. And now into the 160 mile an hour top straight. Across the line again. Now there is Marc Surer and 4 cars in front of him, and John Watson is closing in the very last stages of the race. John Watson has closed the gap between himself and Alain Prost. He's pulled away a bit from René Arnoux. Prost, Watson. John Watson doing a tremendous charge in the closing stages of the race, and Prost has got 3 cars in front of him. This is again Watson's opportunity. If only John Watson, with hardly a lap or so to go, if only John Watson can close the gap between himself and Prost, he's in with a fighting chance of victory. Prost in his second season of Grand Prix racing, whereas this is John Watson's 115th Grand Prix. And Prost is through. Prost has passed Alan Jones. So I think it's all over now, bar the shouting. Prost is going to pass Marc Surer and Eddie Cheever, and it was Reutemann he passed, not Jones. And John Watson has still to get past Carlos Reutemann. Reutemann well down the field, incidentally. And if they go on the way they're going now, for the first time in 17 races, neither of the Williams cars are going to score World Championship points. And that's going to make a difference to the World Championship positions as Prost passes Mark Sura in his first drive in the Theodore, up to Eddie Cheever, the young Italian-American, in the Tyrrell car. Round the left-hander at La Bretelle again. Cheever's keeping ahead of Alain Prost, but Prost would be able to accelerate away past him down the finishing straight if he wanted to, over the crest of the hill. Past goes Hector Ribach, out from Cheever's slipstream goes Alain Prost. And I think Watson's chances of victory have disappeared. It's just 3.3 seconds between Watson, there he is in second position, and that man, number 15, Alain Prost. But that is more than enough as far as Prost is concerned, especially as Watson has still got Eddie Cheever in front of him. So, the parabolique again. And I can tell you, because I'm sitting just across the track from them, that the Renault pit team and Jean Sage and Gérard Larousse, the headmen of the Renault team, are almost literally biting their nails with excitement. They're leaning over the Armco now, looking up the track, waiting to see whether for the first time this season a Renault is going to win a Grand Prix. If they do, it'll be, to put it mildly, a famous victory. And it looks as though it's going to be. Prost goes through, and Watson is certainly not going to touch him now. Larousse and Sage have fought to develop this extremely demanding motor car, the Renault, as Prost goes yet again up to the parabolique. And you can see now that in spite of the fact that Watson has got through and passed those midfield men, and there's Nelson Piquet. Piquet in fifth position, and on this lap the order is Alain Prost. There in second place, John Watson. In third position, René Arnoux still. Pironi is still in fourth place. Nelson Piquet is in fifth position, and Piquet is now some 30 seconds, over 30 seconds behind Alain Prost, who comes over the crest again. Chased by Watson, there's the second place man. And the crowd is roaring in the background now. Watson goes through, ahead of Cheever. You can hear the horns blasting. That's encouragement for Prost, not that he needs it. There's René Arnoux in third place, and that's the first time we've seen him for some time. Are they going to let us see the Ferrari? And the answer is no. But overall, and I've had this worked out for me, if they finish in the order that they're running now, with Didier Pironi going through in fourth position, there is Nelson Piquet behind him in fifth position. Patrese has been lapped. And there is Andrea De Cesaris, number 8, passing Eddie Cheever. And De Cesaris is going to finish, if he finishes this lap, in sixth position. And that will give him another World Championship point. He's only scored one so far, but this is his first season of Grand Prix racing. Prost, Ribach, Watson. Well, Prost is in this stage of the race now where it's very, very worrying indeed. He knows he's in the lead. The pit signals have told him so. He's got the line all the way around the course. He's changing gear at exactly the same point. He's watching his pit signals, and he knows that John Watson is not closing up on him. He's probably braking a tiny bit earlier. He's changing up a little bit earlier. His lap times are hardly varying, but his engine revs will be kept down a bit. But even so, he will probably be imagining noises in the cockpit, thinking that something is going wrong with the car, because even the slightest difference in engine notes makes you start to worry when you're in the lead in the closing stages of the race, as Alain Prost is now. And there it is. Now, for the first time, we see the exact gap between Alain Prost and Nelson Piquet. And so now we can very quickly work out mentally how far ahead the Frenchman is. 31.2 seconds. And the gap between Piquet and Prost at the end of the first leg was some 7 seconds. So that means to say that there's a gap of some 24 or so seconds on corrected time on aggregate over the 2 legs, the first 58 laps and the lap that they're on now. And Prost is certainly certain to win the French Grand Prix, provided he can keep going, and John Watson, who is the only man who stands a chance of doing anything about the Frenchman, can be kept behind him. And John Watson certainly making no impression at all on Prost. And he certainly won't do now, because they're into the last few yards of the race. Out goes the checkered flag, and Alain Prost has won his first Grand Prix, the French Grand Prix. What a wonderful victory for this young Frenchman. And the crowd all around me is going wild with excitement, as well they may do, because not only has Prost won, but René Arnoux in the other Renault has finished in 3rd position. Well, there he goes. This is a moment to savour, a lot of moments to savour for Alain Prost, seeing his countrymen all round the circuit waving with joy to him. On goes the Renault on what is now his 81st lap around this Dijon circuit, one of pure joy and victory. But behind Prost, a terrific drive too by John Watson, and there is the Marlborough just coming into shot as we follow Prost now up onto the rostrum, and you'll be able to see what he looks like for the first time out of his helmet. Alain Prost, his first Grand Prix win, and I suspect by no means his last, and incidentally, in what is a very, very emotional time for Alain. It's being marred a little by the rain, and a very, very unhappy time for Nelson Piquet, who must be reflecting as he stands miserably on the podium, and the strains of the Marseillaise ring out over this Dijon Prix circuit. Alain Prost smiling with victory, but almost in tears with joy if you look closely at his face. And standing alongside him as Prost looks down, and I could just see a tear running down his cheek there. As Prost smiles across the circuit, it's a very, very unhappy Nelson Piquet, who literally had victory snatched away from him when the rain came down on the 59th lap. But just as Prost is happy and Nelson Piquet is most unhappy, John Watson, who is on Prost, they're not letting us see John Watson, but he's there up on the rostrum as Prost takes the victory bowl. John Watson is up there too, and the laurel wreath goes around Prost's shoulders. And there's John Watson on the right. John Watson, he was 3rd at Spain, 2nd here at Dijon in France, and that's good news for John, his 2nd time. And so then, the results. Alain Prost the winner in the Renault, then Watson, Piquet 3rd in the Brabham. These are the aggregate results. René Arnoux 4th, Pironi 5th, and Elio De Angelis scoring another World Championship point. That makes some difference to the World Championship position. Reutemann, no points in this race, but he still leads. Piquet goes up to 2nd place, Jones goes down to 3rd. Villeneuve holds his 4th place, and Lafitte is in 5th, and Prost moves up into 6th position. So the end of a great French Grand Prix, and a very memorable one. In 2 weeks' time, the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, one to savour. Join us to watch that.